Looping, 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 looping. Let's take a look at looping. Yeah, so this video is all about looping. Using this gray bar at the top here. We can turn looping on and off, if you recall, with this button down here. But there's a quicker way, which is to use the slash key on your keyboard. This is the way I do it anyway. And basically, looping is what it sounds like. It takes a section that you specify, and when it reaches the end of the section, it will just bring you back to the start again. So this is really useful and is a crucial part of making music on the computer, really. We need to loop sections all the time for a variety of reasons, from just trying out new melodies or new bass lines or new drum parts over top of a certain section, so we need to hear it again and again, or focusing in on one element, like I might solo a certain track and then loop one bar of it to hear it again and again and again as I make small tweaks or apply effects to it or something like that. So let's look at how we do that. As I mentioned, this gray bar up here is the loop region, and we can specify the loop region by taking the cursor up above the bars here on the ruler, and we hit this gray line and we get this little pencil. So if I start here and loop one bar, I'm just clicking and dragging out. Now I've created this. But it's not blue, which means it's not going to do anything. So in order to make it do something, we need to press the slash key or toggle it on and off down here with the button. Okay, so now that it's on, let's make it really short. So you can see you can change the length of it just by dragging one edge out. This works on both sides. And that will give you whatever size you're looking for. Often music, modern music is working in groups of 2, 4, 8, 16. So you're probably going to be looping maybe a 4-bar region, unless you have some specific reason to focus in on something smaller or something really large if you're looping an entire section. The next thing to know is you can draw a new loop out wherever you want, just like this, backwards, forwards, doesn't matter. But if you want to keep the same loop size and just move it, you can do that as well. So say I set up a 2-bar loop at the end of this section, and I actually wanted it at the start of the section. So all I have to do is hold Command or Control on PC, and I get the little hand, and then I can click and drag, and I move the whole loop section just like this. This is actually really useful. Sometimes it gets annoying to draw out your loop by hand, especially if you've got the grid turned off, which, remember, the grid turning off is up here. This is to push, you push N to turn it off, or you can just toggle it on and off, with this button. So if this is off and I was trying to draw a specific loop, it would almost be impossible, because I wouldn't be able to snap it right to a beat or a bar, so I might get something like this. Where it kind of feels jerky or not so smooth. So when I'm looping, I usually want this on, and then if I want to keep the loop at the accurate size that I've got it at and just move it somewhere else, I can just hold Command or Control, get the hand, and drag it like that. That's really all there is to the basics of looping. So I want to quickly talk about time stretching as well, which is kind of the last thing we're going to get into about manipulating this song. So time stretching, the word is pretty evocative. We're stretching time or compressing time, making things faster or slower. So if you recall at the bottom here, we have our tempo indicator. And tempo means the speed of the song, how fast the song is going. And tempo is measured in beats per minute, or BPM. A beat is how we essentially measure music in the time domain. So if we're listening to a song, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each bar is divided into 4 chunks, which is actually 4 beats. So a BPM is how many beats are there in a minute. So beats are really like they're what cause your head to bob, the speed that you bob your head at when you listen to music or tap your foot. It's what musicians rely on to keep time with each other, is the pulse of the music. This is the beat. So beats per minute is how many beats, how many of these pulses occur in 1 minute. So this song has a BPM of 110. But we can change this, and Studio One will actually dynamically time stretch the contents of the timeline here, all the events. So let's give that a try. I'm going to turn the tempo up from 110 to 140. So there's a couple of ways to do this. We could just click and drag like this. I'm going to Command Z, Control Z to go back. I could also double click and type in the value 140, which is a pretty precise way to do it. Now if we listen, I'm going to turn my loop off. If we listen now, pretty cool. So it's the exact same thing, but every part has been compressed so it plays faster. It's the same information in a shorter time. There's more beats in every minute. So if we turn this number down, let's first go back to the original 110. I did that with Command Z. And now let's put in, say, 90. And let's give this a try. And just to note, we can see this little dude over here whirling around. That basically just means the computer is processing things and working on the time stretching, but we can still play it even though that's going. So quite a different feel when it's slower than at the original tempo. And just for fun, let's put it real slow, and we're gonna type in 40 here. We're gonna find out what happens when you do this. So let's just take a listen. The same section. Pretty wild. So if we solo just the jazz drums, we're really going to get a sense of what's happening with the time stretching. Pretty weird, hey? Sounds really like robotic, kind of hollow or stretched out. And this is just audio artifacts that occur when we push things kind of beyond the normal limits. So because we're working with audio here, we're not working with MIDI, which we're going to talk about soon. This is actual audio waveforms in this event. They can only be stretched so far, at least with the current computer algorithms that Studio One uses, before it starts to degrade and the quality gets very strange. So now if you like that sound, you could totally use that for like a creative use and put that in your song. But 40 is probably too slow to play this song back and still make it sound nice, because we're going to get that warped, stretched sound. So I'll just revert back to 110. And that's all there is to say about it, really, in terms of time stretching and looping. They're pretty essential things to understand about Studio One, and we will touch on time stretching with greater detail in the future, and about how to set specific kinds of time stretching, depending on if you're working with drums or things that are what you call monophonic, which means only one note at a time, or things that are instruments that are polyphonic, which is multiple notes at one time. They all have different time stretching algorithms that the computer can use to give you the best results. But that's for a future video. In the next video, you'll get your first task. I'll see you there.